Today on Locked On Red Wings, 3-0-2 in 5 games played, not a single regulation loss. What do the Detroit Red Wings have to do to sustain this success? And also a preview of the second game against the New Jersey Devils.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I am a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast, while Scotty is the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today, Scotty, it's 5 games in the season. We have good vibes all around, right?
Good vibes.
3-0-2. Like I said in the cold open, not a single regulation loss yet, but we understand it's early and that's not going to last. But what do the Red Wings have to do to sustain that success? We're going to talk about it, talk about what they're good at doing, what they're doing well and have to continue to do, as well as what they have yet to improve on to continue this success. But then in the segment 3, we'll transition nice and cleanly right into previewing the game against the New Jersey Devils. But let's get back right to what they have to do to continue this success. 8 points. I think they're first in the wild card because there's not a single team in the Atlantic Division who has an under 500 winning percentage right now, which is just speaks to how ridiculous this division is. Not that I expect the Montreal Canadiens to keep this wave going, but still 3-3 for them. They're bottom of the division at 3-3. That's crazy. This whole division's stacked. What do the Red Wings have to do? Let's focus on what they're doing well first, Scotty. But what do the Red Wings have to do or continue doing to continue seeing this success?
So I think one of the main points is, especially when it comes to the forward group, is just the depth needs to continue to be a strong point and be a focal point. And I find it fascinating, too, that we haven't gotten crazy production as far as goal scoring goes from like Andrew Kopp yet, or from, like Moritz Seider hasn't been like a point producer yet. I know he's a defenseman and whatnot, but I'm just saying like there are Lucas Raymond, obviously, like there are players on this team still that we fully expect to be good point producers, at least, solid point producers that haven't really come around and blown the cover off the ball yet. I just got to finish recording Locked On Tigers, so there's a baseball analogy. But like, you know what I mean? Like there's still some talent on this roster that we're still, I don't want to say waiting for, because we're not like, oh, these guys look awful, we're waiting for them to show up. Like, no, like they're producing in other areas, but there's still point producers that haven't been producing a lot of points yet. And I think that that's something to look for going forward. And regardless of what a few of those guys at the top 6 do or whatnot, depth is vital. And especially not only when competing against this very good and strong division, but this being a competent team and going and trying to make a playoff push in general, depth is going to be of the utmost importance. We've already seen 2 really big, whether it's injuries or just missing time for other reasons or whatnot. We have 2 players that are going to be out for what appears to be a relatively decent amount of time, and they're top 6 forwards. And now we have to, next man up mentality and have dudes slide in and slide around and fill new roles. And so I think that that's a really big key going forward, is the depth, whether it's calling people up from GR, whether it's, injuries happen, whatever, it needs to continue producing at a really solid rate.
You mentioned Moritz Seider there, and I know we wanted to start off with things that need to continue to go well for the Red Wings. But you mentioned that he needs to start producing. I think he only has 1 assist on the season, but he actually leads the Red Wings in Corsi for percentage. So when it comes to, shot attempts for versus shot attempts against, he's been the best player on the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, in fact, he's directly stopping good shots against all the time. Like, I wasn't trying to make it sound like he's been bad or anything. It's just strictly when it comes to point totals. That's all.
Not just that though, Scotty, but he leads the team in Corsi for, which means that when he's on the ice, the team gets the most shot attempts off.
Right.
When he is on the ice, and he also at 5 on 5, mind you, he's not leading the team in time on the ice. So with less time on the ice than Olimata, who has 80 minutes compared to Moritz Seider's 74, he is producing more shot attempts for. So the production is going to come. He's still producing offense. It's just the puck's not reaching the net on those shot attempts. Sure. It's gonna come. I'm not worried about more.
That's my point. Is like it's going to happen. Like that was my point. It's not like a wait and see thing. Like all of those players are it's gonna happen. Like they're going to produce. And I think once we have the production we're already getting, and once we have the depth production we've already been getting, once even more players start to come around and start producing, I mean, it's like the offense has been phenomenal so far. We talked about it yesterday.
That's the biggest thing.
And we don't even have a ton of offensive like point totals from like our biggest name free agent and like our Calder winner. I know he's a defenseman, but still, like, you know, there's still some stuff that they could even improve on. But I think the main point is that depth is just going to be really key.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is that there's two big things as to why they've seen so much success so far, and it's because of that depth scoring. Obviously, we've seen goals from, you know, your Dylan Larkins. We saw a goal from Jacob Vrana before he went off, but it's really the depth scoring that's really taken over so far early in the season. You've seen goals from Elmer Soderblom, Joe Veleno, Pius Suter, and that's something we didn't see last year, and that's gone a long way to the success they've seen. So if you want to see continued success from this Red Wings team, you need to see your third and fourth lines continue to produce the way they have, because you need those lines to produce, to be good. And we saw it in the game against the Ducks. That third and fourth line were the best team on the ice, or best lines on the ice rather, at expected goals for percentage, which just shows how well they're performing and outperforming their third and fourth line counterparts, to the point where there have been several games now where that Redwood line has started the game because they're playing so well. And then you get Dylan Larkin's line back out there and they're creating dangerous chances. And then leads right into the second thing that this Red Wings team has to do to continue to be successful that they're already doing so well, and that's special teams. Now, penalty kill, there's not really much left to be said about that. And we've talked about it. They're 100% success rate on the penalty kill. That there's nothing to improve on. And obviously, they're not going to be 100% successful throughout the season, Scotty. We both know that. But if they can continue to be a top 15 team, they're going to stay in the mix. Power play, I want to see more consistency at converting. They were 26th in the league coming into last night's game, or Sunday's game by the time you're listening to this, and they were 15th with those 3 power play goals afterwards. You're not going to sustain 3 goals a game on the power play. You need to be able to consistently get, 1 or 2 goals every other game. That seems like a lot. You know what? Because I don't really know. I don't have a frame of reference of what a successful power play is, but you need to be able to more consistently get that puck in the back of the net on the power play. You don't want to necessarily rely on one game to get 3 goals to get you back up the standings. You need to be able to do that reliably every single game. They did it well. They've been doing it better as the season's gone on. And obviously the Anaheim Ducks game, we know they succeeded to a whole new level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point about the power play, is that you want more evened out and sustained success in the power play, because they did. We talk about how great of a weekend they had, but they did start off slow and they did go a couple of games off rip without scoring a goal. So I think that is really important. And I think we talked about it at length yesterday, right? Good teams are good on special teams. Like that's just how hockey works. So I think that is a really key point. But, the personnel groups on power play are really exciting.
Yeah.
It's just like fun, like we've seen like Perron's success. Kubalik can do anything on special teams or 5-on-5 just because he's going to get shots off so well. We know what the captain's capable of. Like there's so much potential. And I think it is very much in the realm of possibility. I think it's very much a real scenario where they have, we're not even begging for a top 8 power play in the NHL.
Top half, man.
You're right. Just give me in the top half of the league and hope that the 5-on-5 and a really good penalty kill as well can kind of cancel each other out and get us over that hump and get us to be competitive late in the season. But I absolutely agree. I think those are pretty clearly the 2 biggest points at the start of the season so far.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about what the team isn't doing well right now that needs to improve if they want to continue to see this success going forward. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about Athletic Greens. This next product is something you're going to want to use every single day. You want to start taking AG1 because with one delicious scoop of AG1, you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of those things. It's quite incredible. And surprisingly, it actually tastes pretty good when you get that package in the mail. When you get that package in the mail, Scotty, and you mix it together and it's green, you're like, I don't know about this.
It scares you. It really does. No, like it's good, man. I mean, I've been pretty open about the fact that I've used it every day since they became a sponsor of Locked On, since they sent us that initial, like, hey, try it and let us know what you think. This might be a sponsor kind of thing, like in March.
Yeah.
I've been drinking it every day since. Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's like, it was a very pleasant surprise that it tasted good as well. And it helps your stomach settle. Any issues you're having with your gut, it's going to solve those. It solved those for the founder. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything, while tasting good. Supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. Athletic Greens is a climate-neutral certified company. In 2020, AG purchased carbon credits that supports projects protecting old-growth rainforests. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to send you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, let's get into now what the Red Wings have to do to improve, what they have to improve on to see this continued success. And you kind of touched on it in the first segment, but there are a couple of guys we want to begin to see production from, mainly one being Andrew Kopp. We understand what he is. He's a two-way forward, and he's great in the defensive zone. But the part of being a two-way forward is the offensive side of it. And he hasn't produced offensively. Neither has Lucas Raymond, really. I think he only has 2 assists in the season. He hasn't gotten a goal yet, although he's been playing fairly well. He's just been struggling to get space. Teams are attacking him a lot differently, having tape on him now. And then, of course, Filip Zadina can't buy a goal. He's been so close so many times, puts himself in the right position. I mean, that's one of the big main things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of spoiled it a little bit at the beginning of there, but I think it's the same conversation 1 and 2 with like, hey, the depth has been really good, but it's kind of needed to supplement. I don't know, needed kind of sounds almost too dramatic, but like just completely fell off the stand. But
trying to have a professional conversation.
That looked good. But no, like needed is probably maybe a little too dramatic for my liking, but it's one of those things where the depth has stepped up, which is great, but they've stepped up in place of some of the dudes in the top 6. And yeah, I mean, you know, Zadina might be more in the category of a depth forward as it stands, but Kopp is a guy that I don't want to undersell how good he's been defensively, because as a forward, he has been a plus defender. He's been really good in the defensive zone. His forecheck is really impressive. I really like what I've seen from Andrew Kopp a ton. It's just offensively, when it comes to producing, putting the puck in the back of the net, we haven't really seen much offensive production yet, but that doesn't mean that he's not making solid passes and the positioning is solid. And that, again, his defense, I think, has been stellar, to be honest, so far this season. So, yeah, it's one of those things where you're just kind of waiting for everything to click, and eventually it will. And this is not like a, chicken with its head cut off, like, oh, my goodness, the sky is falling type of thing. You know what I mean? This isn't, like, Kopp is a bust. This is terrible. Like, no, we're 5 games in. He'll come around. I'm very confident he will. But, yeah, I think that's one of the more important pieces going forward, is because you shouldn't be completely reliant on your bottom 6 to give you a goal or even 2 goals a night on a night in and night out basis. That won't last. It's not sustainable. It's just not.
Yeah.
So you're going to need those top end guys that you're giving or are planning on giving big money to step up a little bit more. And yeah, Lucas Raymond, the biggest thing for him, you touched on it, so I won't go too much in depth more than you already did. But yeah, the creating separation has just been and it's not even with the puck, it's off the puck too. I mean, there's just a lot of struggles he's had so far, creating separation and keeping the puck on his stick for long periods of time. Like, people just bull rush him and it almost looks like he just like doesn't really know how to react immediately. So he'll adjust. He's a gamer. He's a competitor. He'll be fine. But that's where we're at. And those are two guys especially that for prolonged success will definitely need to take a step in the right direction.
I can't hear the term gamer anymore without like thinking of those memes. And it's just like, I can't take it unironically anymore. You said it and I was just like, oh my God. But I understand your point for sure. Yeah. 3 of the top 6 aren't producing. Obviously you have Kubalik, who was a depth forward, now playing a top 6 role, has been insane. Right. David Perron and Larkin are producing, but you need those other 3 guys. And I mean, it doesn't help. And this is another part of it too, is you got to stay healthy, and you can't help that. It's something you can't fix. I mean, you lost Bertuzzi, you lost Vrana, but I mean, your depth has stepped up huge to fill those roles, and you're still scoring over exactly 3 goals per 60 minutes, which is awesome. You love that. But staying healthy is a huge part of it. Again, can't control that. I would say the absolute biggest thing that the Red Wings have to do to sustain the success or improve on to make sure they can sustain the success is faceoffs. We touched on it yesterday, and I have it up here. So far through 6 games, the Red Wings they have a faceoff win percentage of 42%, which is 28th in the league. And teams that win faceoff wins games. Now, it's not necessarily, correlation causation type thing, but it does help a lot. You looked at a game against the Blackhawks. They won a faceoff, they scored a goal. They lost a faceoff, they gave up a goal. Against possession in offensive and defensive zones matters off the draw. And you can't do that if you're not winning faceoffs. And we obviously know that one of the big part of the reasons why they're not winning faceoffs is because they have nothing but left-handed forwards. And there are times where you need a right-handed forward to line up. Again, I'll plug Sean Shapiro's article on Twitter. He goes into depth really nicely on how you want to line up and why Red Wings having nothing but left-handed forwards really serves as a detriment. But that's another problem that having Andrew Kopp, or not having Andrew Kopp, but Andrew Kopp's not providing that he normally does. He's a career over 50% win percentage on the faceoff dot. So far this season, he's at like 39%. So when you talk about he's great in the defensive zone, but not really providing much in the offensive zone, he also needs to start winning in the faceoff dot. So it's been a little bit, I won't call it a struggle. I'll call it a slow start for the season for Andrew Kopp for about half of his game. But that faceoffs, man, that's the biggest thing that they have got to improve on if they want to sustain this success. They're doing a lot of things right, and we touched on that in the first segment. But these are things we've noticed that because, as much as we love the fact that they're 3-0-2, we have to be realistic and be like, okay, that could be a problem in the future and will bite them in the butt if they cannot figure out how to correct it.
Yeah, it's also for a team that already we have highlighted for the last, year and a half, 2 years, however long I've been here. And then you've obviously, happy 1 year, by the way, Brian.
Oh yeah. That's October 25th. Yeah, I think so.
Happy 1 year anniversary to Brian Fisher being the host of Locked On Red Wings.
And he comes wearing a Pistons hat. Oh,
that's all right. What'd you wear in your first episode? Do you remember?
God, no. Probably like the rotation
was very
of like
much a joke. That would be weird if you did. Yeah.
Like the same rotation of 4 hats that I
we
already
weren't on
do.
YouTube yet.
No, we weren't. So it didn't even matter.
Yeah, I guess only you and I would know. Yeah.
I was wearing nothing.
Okay. So there was no. And again, like for a team, we've been highlighting how much the Detroit Red Wings still have a long way to go defensively. It's something that, we talked about it yesterday. Like, decent start to the great start to the season. Like, again, good vibes and whatnot, but there's still some steps that need to be taken defensively. Last year's defense was obviously terrible. Like, this is a team that still has some strides to take on the blue line and the defensive side of the puck. And when you're losing faceoffs, you're only making your life that much harder. Like, you don't want to put pressure on a not elite defense, right? Like, you don't want to put pressure on a defensive group that's already not like one of the better defensive groups in the NHL. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. Kopp is obviously that's one of the reasons you paid him money was because of that. So
Biggest
something that
you've given out,
keeping an eye on for sure. But I mean, really, this keeps coming back to all your problems are solved if you just bring Luke Glendening back, in my opinion.
Shut up. You're ridiculous. But yeah, the defense for sure. And they're better than they were last year. There's no question there.
For sure.
Consistency is their biggest problem right now. Like again, game against the Ducks, they played great. Haig, Lindstrom, your bottom two pairs, Hronik, Mata, they were fantastic. Obviously, you know what you're getting out of Sider. Sherratt has been proving us wrong through the first 6 games for the most part, but it's not consistent. It's game by game. There were a game against Chicago, or was it the game before that, where we were saying that Hronik looked horrible, but he had a good game against Anaheim. It's consistency. They have
the LA game.
Yeah, they have a better core now, but finding that consistency is going to be the key to what makes them an actual legitimate threat defensively. They got better players, but they got to find that chemistry. Maybe they got to figure out that system, the structure, as Alone likes to call it.
Again, and not putting yourself on your back heel and losing a face-off in your own zone will help that. So.
And that's the thing is like they're also like they're a thing that needs to improve, but they're also a thing that has gotten better that needs to continue to be good. It's really
it was impossible to get worse. Like they were so bad last year that like obviously it's better, but that doesn't mean that it's great either.
But it still has steps it needs to take to get to that playoff contending, Stanley Cup contending level, and it's not quite there yet. So it kind of falls in that camp with the power play where it's like it's better and you can see the plus side, but you just needed to find that consistency. So it's kind of one of those things where it is a good thing, but also could also still get better. We're at 21 minutes. Let me send it to break real quick. And when we come back, we'll touch on tending very quickly because goaltending is one of those things that's kind of in the middle. It's same thing where it's not a boon. And
having a preview at the end too is like this conversation directly ties in.
Exactly. Like the Devils,
a game preview. So we're chilling.
So when we come back, we'll talk about goaltending, get into the game preview, and we'll send you guys off the New Jersey Devils game, depending on whenever you listen to this episode. Segment 3 coming up. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are breaking down the game, or not breaking down the game, breaking down what this team needs to continue to do to improve and keep this hot start going. We want to talk about goaltending. Ville Husso and Nedeljkovic have been splitting the season, 50-50 so far in net. Husso, as I would say, played more confidently than Nedeljkovic early. Congratulations to Alex Nedeljkovic, by the way. They're going to have him and his wife, Emma, I believe, are going to have a child, which is awesome. So congratulations to him. For sure. But the goaltending situation is neither, I wouldn't call it a bad situation or a good situation. Again, it comes down to consistency. It's the same thing with the defense.
I think the exact word for it so far is an inconsistent situation. I think that's really the only
way to describe than last year.
For sure. Objectively better than last year, objectively a step in the right direction. But it's been a little inconsistent. And this also, all of this conversation comes with this conversation of this entire episode comes with raising the bar of your expectations of an organization. And that just comes with being better. Like we brought in a lot more talent. We called up talent. We signed talent, traded for it, etc. We brought in a lot more talent. This team should be better. We should expect better. We should analyze as if they are better. So comparing it to last year's team, obviously all of these are steps in the right direction. But for maintaining this currently in a playoff spot success 5 games in, that's where these conversations really start and end. So I think that the best way to describe the goaltender situation is inconsistent. And I think that, Ned has had – was that a sneeze?
Shut up.
Sounded like an elephant. I think that
I couldn't get to the mute button in time because the monitor was clicked on a different screen.
With Ned, there is very clearly the talent is there, and he still will go on hot streaks. But even forget what game it was. I think it was 2 outings ago. He gave up a couple of really quick goals, but then besides that, he was locked down. Right, like he's whether it's starting off the game slow or just inconsistently, they score, we score, they score rather. Like there's just a few things to tighten up, and I feel like Ned is just one step away, or there's one thing that he's just gotta click, and then it's all just gonna fall into place, and he's gonna take that big step forward. And a lot of it with Ned is a consistency during the game. We talk about the inconsistency of the goaltending situation somewhat. Again, like we haven't had a regulation loss yet. It's going well, but there's still some inconsistencies on a game-to-game basis. And I think with Ned specifically, a lot of that was just like even shift to shift or period to period. Like there's just some where you're like, okay, that was a really cheap goal to give up, but then he'll like be on his head the rest of the game. And you're like, okay. So I agree with you. I think inconsistency is a big thing for goaltending so far.
And for the record, in the game against the Anaheim Ducks, Ville Husso had an expected goal saved above expected rather of 1.8, which was ninth best, which means basically he saved almost 2 goals above what was expected. So he played very well. And Nedeljkovic, for what it's worth, hasn't necessarily played poorly either. It's mostly just coming out hot, like not letting up that early goal. That's kind of killing him at the moment. But I'm not too concerned about it yet because overall it's still been, again, much improvement. Like we're kind of nitpicking what we want to see improve. But so far, everything has been better.
Because
everything across the board.
Yeah, that comes with the territory of raising expectations is being more nitpicky. Like
we have expectations now.
Right.
And I tweeted that out after the Blackhawks game, like why that game stung so much. It's because there was an expectation the Red Wings would win. So while we maybe are nitpicky and like we both agree on, everything across the board has improved with the Detroit Red Wings. Well, so have our expectations improved. And so it's okay to be nitpicky. Still love that they're out to a 3-0 and 2 start, which is why we're talking about this, why we want to see them continue this hot streak and why we're being nitpicky as to why they could keep it going. But I'm starting to speak in circles now. So let's move on to the game against the New Jersey Devils that's happening. Is this at home? Yes, at LCA. ESPN Plus game, 7 o'clock. And so they beat the New Jersey Devils last time out. It was the second game of the season in New Jersey, 5-2. That one was kind of a seesaw battle as well. Nedeljkovic started that one. Speak of the devil, and he'll probably start in this game.
I'm on a roll right now.
I'm on a roll. He will start this game, I assume, because of the fact that they've been doing every other.
I'd assume as well. Yep.
So, like, this is a game, and you talked about it yesterday. You broke it down a little bit, Scotty, that this is the last kind of, I won't call it a gimme game because there's no gimme games in hockey, but this is the last game against an opponent for a while that's not expected to make the playoffs, save the Buffalo Sabres a few games ahead of now. So you said it yesterday, and I'm going to repeat it now, but you have got to win this game because you got to get those points whenever you can before you face those real contenders and the real battle begins. And I'm not trying to downplay the games they've played, but those teams are going to be a step above what you've played thus far, save the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, this is, in my humble opinion, outside of maybe the Blackhawks game, and that one's not really situationally. That's just because I always like demand victory over the Blackhawks. I think this is one of the first like must-win games. I almost want to call it. I want to get into must-win territory with it. I think that this is it is vital that you win this hockey game for all the reasons that you just laid out and that I talked about yesterday. This is the easiest opponent you will play for like the next 6 games. Like there, you cannot go into that tough stretch without having picked up, at least a point, hopefully, from New Jersey before you get into that tough stretch. So yeah, I think it's imperative. Honestly, I think that and I know it's the 6th game of the season. That's ridiculous. Whatever. Sure, you can obviously have time to recover from it. But just given the honestly gauntlet that you're going to go through for the next 5 or 6 games afterwards, it would be really nice to start off with a win before you head into that.
I'm so tired of my lighting changing every 5 minutes, by the way. This is really annoying.
Crazy, dude.
It's every time a cloud passes, I have to adjust my light. But let's not downplay the New Jersey Devils either. Are they expected to make the playoffs this year? Probably not. I would say not, but this is a team that is taking a step forward this year or looking to take a step forward, much like the Red Wings. They are 3-2 on the season, so they are above 500 right now, and they have a couple players that early in the season are playing really well. Obviously, they have the new acquisition in Andre Palat, who has 3 goals so far this season, leads the team in goals. Jesper Bratt, the left wing, has 8 assists. No goals, but 8 assists. Leads the team in points with 8 assists. He's playing really great. Nico Hischier has 6 points in 4 games played. Dawson Mercer has 3 points in 5 games played. So they're a team that has threats now offensively. But their biggest detriment continues to be goaltending. Their goaltending situation, I mean, you want to talk, we should be grateful that we have a bona fide tandem in Alex Nedeljkovic
also,
and
remember
Ville Husso when you look at the Devils.
Yeah, remember how much New Jersey was out shooting us for like a vast majority of the first game. Like we just took advantage of opportunities because their goaltending situation was so bad. So like, yeah, and that's definitely a thing. And I really like New Jersey going forward. I don't think this is the year they take the big step, but I think it's coming in the next year or two. And yeah, that's a really good young core. This is far from a hand me over victory. And Chicago should have been, and it wasn't. So like there's really none of those in hockey. But yeah, so it's definitely not just some easy opponent to steamroll either. It's just the easiest opponent you will play for the foreseeable future, so you better win it.
Yeah, so I'm expecting in net probably going to be Mackenzie Blackwood unless they're coming off a back-to-back. The one game that Vincent Vanacek has played is against the Detroit Red Wings, and it was that very bad game that he played, obviously. So expect a better goaltending performance because Mackenzie Blackwood is better, but he does have a save percentage of just .904, which isn't horrible. It's okay. It's where Nedeljkovic finished around that number at the end of the season. So it's an okay number. But they're a team much like the Red Wings last year where they just don't have much protection around the goaltending. So if you can take advantage of that bad goaltending and stifle, Jesper Bratt and Andre Palat, you're going to have a good chance of winning this game. And like you said, Scotty, this is a game you kind of have to win because your gimmies, so to speak. I don't like using that word. That's not the right word to use. But I don't want to call games easy games because there's no such thing as a good game in hockey, but your easier games, I have to say, because I can't think of a better adjective right now, but your easier games schedule-wise, on paper, I guess I'll put that addendum in there, are ending with this one because, like you said yesterday, you look at the schedule ahead and it's nothing but playoff contenders from here on out or expected playoff contenders from here on out. So you have to win this game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think all the reasons we talked about really, like it would be really nice to get a victory and see some of those dudes that have maybe gotten off to slower starts produce. The biggest priority, I think, is still just maintaining solid special teams. If we walk out of New Jersey with still a perfect penalty kill and another power play goal, I mean, that's also a beauty. So, yeah, I think that all the reasons we kind of highlighted are really the keys to the game itself. And I think it's as close as a must win as we've had so far this season.
All right. Any final thoughts, man?
We ball.
Do we want to give a final score prediction? Is that something we're going to do?
Sure. I'm going to go 4-2 Wings.
I'd be curious if we ever give a score prediction that has the Red Wings losing. I'll go.
You can do it.
No, I think the Wings are going to win this game.
I'm going 4-2 with an empty netter.
This is at home too.
Yep.
I'll go. You know what? I'm going to replicate the first game they had. I'll say 5-3. I'll say 5-3. No empty netter though.
Yeah.
5-3, no empty netter. But with one power play goal.
Wow, you're really specific on me. I'm going to go 4-2 with an empty netter. Ned having exactly 39 saves and assists from Seider, Larkin.
We got to start parlaying these.
And Raymond.
Like real life gambling these on the air. We can do that now, right? Can we
BetOnline?
BetOnline. All right, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow after the game. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.